This episode is brought to you by the Denver Art Museum. Kick off your weekend at the Denver Art Museum's next Untitled Artist Takeover event on Friday, April 24th from 6 to 10 p.m. Get ready for a night of creativity and culture featuring poetry readings, crafting origami stars and printmaking, the electrifying rhythms of Japanese drumming, one-night-only art installations, and a nostalgic fashion show. The evening will be led by artists Leilani Durr and Soo-Yoon Juliet Lee and other contributing creatives. Untitled Artist Takeover is included in general admission and free for Denver Art Museum members. Reserve your tickets today at denverartmuseum.org. Welcome to CityCast Denver. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. So today we're talking about future plans for the Pavilions, the state of the economy, and how business owners feel about it, and so much more. Producer Paul Caroli, hello.
Hey, what's up, Bree?
Good morning. And we have a returning guest. He's the chief economist at the Colorado Legislative Council. Greg Sabetsky, hi.
Hello. Nowhere I'd rather be this morning.
Thanks for joining us again. Okay, really quick, before we dig into these super fun topics, we've got a little business to take care of. As many of you know, we are in the midst of our membership campaign. So we want to talk about one of our favorite parts of this particular campaign. Again, you join $10 a month, $100 a year, you get all kinds of cool stuff. This particular membership drive, we've got a pennant, an Oxford pennant. Paul, can you describe it? I know we've described it before, but it's really, there's like, a little bit of it in your wheelhouse here. There's something about it.
You see I know what you're alluding to, but you see in my background, these old, it's like Rockies and Avalanche, like a Stanley Cup champions pennant. It's like, the thing that, it's kind of nostalgic. I don't know when we stopped making these as a society, but I feel like there was a time when they were quite popular, and now the only people doing it are CityCast Denver. You know, that's the only place to get a fresh new pennant.
I've got a DU one on my wall over here.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah? Greg, you have a DU one?
You want to show it off?
I have a DU one. Let's see if I can get my webcam to go over there. Yeah, but it's right there.
Oh, that's
good.
That's old school too. That's like the one we made for this drive. It's like that big blocky lettering all on the one color. It's like a really cool looking pennant, and I'm looking forward to putting one on my wall when I snag one off the back of the truck going to Member Island.
Which also, it says, it's all about Denver, and it says, I live here on purpose. And then it has this beautiful little icon. Paul, do you want to describe it without describing it?
It's a picture of a generic horse. Nothing else. It may look like other horses, but that's you. That's you bringing that. That for us, this is a generic horse.
Yes, it may bring to mind another iconic horse here that folks know Denver by, but it is not that horse, but it is definitely a gorgeous Denver representing horse. So that's just one of many things you get when you join our membership program. Of course, you get the ad-free podcast feed. You get a weekly email every Monday that gives you all the events happening this week if you're looking for fun stuff to do. Again, that is just a members-only list that we send out of events. You also get invites to members-only meetups where we hang out with you, and we get to hear your great ideas for shows and hang out, and we've done one at Convivio Cafe. What else have we done? We went to Licks. We had ice cream. We've just had a lot of fun times. And also, if you remember, we have this great event at the end of the year called the Denver Awards, and we do some special stuff for our members then. So if you sign up now, you get to be a part of all of that. Again, you go to membership.citycast.fm/Denver, sign up. Again, just $10 a month, $100 a year. You get the pennant. You get all these other cool things, and you get to be part of this community that helps the show keep going. We really need you. And this is really an important time, and it really helps us so much when you join us. But the benefits are endless to us because it means we get to be connected to you. And a lot of our show ideas come from you guys, and we really appreciate it. And Paul, Paul, you know what? Would you just read? We got a really nice note from Ruth M. about joining the membership program. Can you share what Ruth said?
I mean, it kind of says it all. Ruth M. says, I absolutely love the mix of traditional news and local business gossip that the CityCast Denver team provides. I want to know my city and feel connected to my community, and this podcast has given me insight into my neighborhood that I can use every day. Thank you for your hard work. Local journalism keeps people connected, and we appreciate you. We appreciate you, Ruth. That was so nice to see.
It's so nice to read that. That's really nice. We love to hear that from you, and we hope that we do give you that back tenfold. Again, membership.citycast.fm/Denver. Sign up today. And all right, let's move on to the news, because we got some pretty interesting stuff that came out the end of last week. We really wanted to talk about it. It's something we've been following. Obviously, it's the future and fate of the Denver Pavilions on 16th Street. So this plan was presented by ULI, the Urban Land Institute, which kind of looks at urban areas and gives recommendations for what kinds of things could happen on a piece of land like this with existing structures and incorporating that into a new plan. Paul, was there anything that stuck out to you about the ideas that ULI put forward for what the pavilions could possibly be used for?
Well, yeah. I thought this was a very interesting presentation, and I'm excited to hear what Greg thinks as well. I mean, I'm sure like many Denverites, do you have experiences going to the pavilions, Greg? Do you like going to the movie theater or the H&M or something?
Oh yeah, first kiss at the pavilions, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my God. Where? How did it go down? Give us the scene.
It was high school. I was downtown with my girlfriend. We were on 16th Street. We were up and down with friends. We were in a back hallway, I think one of the hallways that goes back towards the bathrooms, and ran into each other. I think she was coming out, I was going in, and stopped and had our first kiss. It was exciting for both of us. What a memory.
Oh my God. That is so sweet.
That's so much better. My story was I used to buy rave tickets at Mr. Rags. So
I don't know.
That's
it's pretty good.
That's
Also
the extent of it.
Also good. Boy, the Barnes & Noble was the one for me. Going up that, I mean, it's nice to have that bookstore there.
Yeah.
Two
it's a good
bookstores
spot.
there was a time on 16th Street. Tattered Cover at one end, Barnes & Noble on the other.
Oh my gosh.
How about that?
Once upon a time.
Bring that
Anyway.
back.
What the ULI recommends is that we basically demolish most of it, is what it sounds like, and leave the building where the theater is the biggest.
Yeah.
That was my takeaway, was they want to make this like central, they're calling it a, quote, culturally significant urban open space that kind of feels like a park. My impression is that they're talking about the space that is currently occupied by the H&M, that like central core retail building. So if they were to demolish that and leave the building that is kind of like the enclosing arc of the building with the theater in it that has the word Pavilions up on the top, that great big sign that you can see from blocks away.
Yeah.
My impression is that's what they're recommending would stay, and that inner central building would go in place and be replaced by some kind of park. Although it would be like a public-private partnership that would be in charge of it, kind of like the way that the urban Union Station is operated by private owners and yet a sort of public space. So that's what the vision they presented was. The other piece that was interesting was they thought about recommending a hotel for the space that's currently full of those big parking lots in the back, because the city bought both parts of the plot to recombine the block. So they're not recommending a hotel. Instead, they're recommending residential housing units. I think about 1,200 would fit on that space.
I mean, sorry, but I think we have enough hotels. I think that housing sounds like a way better option. I mean, to me personally, this seems so pie in the sky to tear down this whole part. And I worry. Again, this is a proposal. This is not a plan. This has not been signed off on. This actually hasn't even been fully presented to the public. They're going to put out a full report in the next 2 months with more information about it. But I just want to say in the couple of years I spent in planning, consulting on projects like this, we did a lot of these plans, and they don't always come to fruition because it takes money.
For sure.
And, what does the economy look like in 5 years? And I don't know. It kind of bummed me out, to be honest with you, because I would love to just see a repurposing of this kind of weird outdoor mall. But I'm like a mall enthusiast, so I like weird commercial architecture. Yeah, Greg, go ahead.
I think my concern would just be about the disruption to that part of downtown again, after we had so much of that with 16th Street. And then another like multi-year giant, I'm sure very invasive construction project also damaging traffic to that part of the CBD feels potentially detrimental, as much as that can be contained. And I really kind of don't think it can be, given the pavilion's position straddling a street down there. That just feels tough for me, given the amount of additional machinery, equipment, noise, dust that you'd have with a giant construction project occurring over, I'm sure, a long timeline.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, because that was a huge struggle for so many businesses along 16th Street. That long ongoing redoing the entire, like, the central, the segment, the middle, the mall, the actual mall aspect of it. I didn't think about that part. I just always think about this from an artist perspective of, like, throw a couple artists in there and see what kind of weird stuff they can do. But I'm also just thinking about, like, other ways to repurpose this space that doesn't require tearing down a bunch of stuff and maybe putting in services that people actually need. Like, how awesome would it be if there was a childcare facility there that served folks downtown, or maybe a branch of the DMV, or, you know what I mean? Or, I don't know, a post office. All the original things that Victor Gruen, that designed the mall, wanted in the mall before.
You're talking about the idea of a mall at all.
Yeah,
okay.
The original idea for the mall, Victor Gruen, who designed the first shopping mall, his idea was to have services and things in it that people would use, like doctors' offices and stuff. And then that's obviously not what happened.
No, capitalism took over.
Yes, it sure did. And he was very disappointed about it.
Well, the city leaders are very excited about this. Mayor Mike Johnston called the presentation incredibly compelling. This is the quote I liked from Business Den. For many of us in the Denver urban design community, this was like the Taylor Swift album drop. He's talking about the presentation of the plan. I mean, he's trying to hype it up, because he's trying to get, I think what they're trying to do, why they hired this Urban Land Institute for $100,000, is to try to, like, put together a vision to bridge the gap between, like, a now city-owned property and developers who probably don't see a lot of potential in this, like, derelict old mall that's 50% vacant. So hopefully, I mean, as a city, I think hopefully someone sees something in this proposal that they're excited about, and they put together a compelling application to build maybe a DMV or a new Barnes & Noble, or put in a proposal to build a big residential building in those lots.
I mean, imagine a First Friday down there. That'd be so awesome. Or, this is not my idea, but, like, an art house theater in the Regal Cinemas, like, or a film incubation space or something. I don't know. I just think that I don't know. You're right. But it's just, this is what business owners and developers might like more than an altruistic idea of a multi-use space for the community. But we don't really know. This is just the beginnings of it. So we'll see. I would love to hear from listeners. What do you think about the future of the pavilions? I know we've been talking about this for a long time, but is there anything in this plan that stuck out to you as, like, yes, this is exactly what we should do? Or, like, no, I've seen this somewhere in another city before and it didn't work. Or maybe, I know they brought up some other cities where they have similar projects. So maybe I'm thinking about one. There's Horton Plaza in San Diego that was a similar style mall that they did some huge changes to, which I didn't necessarily love, but I think it may have worked better for the community. So I'd love to hear from folks. 720-500-5418. Give us a call. You can leave us a voicemail, shoot us a text, send us an email, denver@citycast.fm. What do you think about the future of the pavilions? Okay, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, more conversation about local business. Hi, Olivia.
Hey, Brie, what's up?
Well, I just want to talk to you about this cool new thing that we have that's just for CityCast Denver neighbors. We have something really exciting to share with you, because we know you love Denver as much as we love Denver, but the other thing you love about Denver, which I know you do, is gossip. There's a lot of stuff that we realized we were, like, leaving on the cutting room floor that was actually really fun, and things we wanted to share that we thought our audience might like, but it doesn't always fit into our regular programming.
So if you want to hear that and join the little chat, we've got a special new thing for neighbors only, where we are going to be rolling out a bonus segment at least once a week for neighbors only, where you get a special segment of us talking about something. But that's only one of the benefits you get from joining our membership program. Of course, it shows the kindness of your heart and supporting local journalism and our small team. We see each of your names and we get a little flutter in our hearts each time we see it. But you also get ad-free listening, invites to our member-only events, And then you're also getting a weekly preview of all the best events happening throughout the metro sent right to your inbox every Monday.
So again, you can join us at membership.citycast.fm for just $10 a month. You get that extra content, or $100 a year if you want to save a little cash and pay for the whole year up front. And it's just for you if you become a member. This episode is brought to you by Cozy Earth. Mother's Day is coming up. Maybe you know a mom or a stepmom or a dog mom, or you have a work mom or a mother who you want to celebrate. So why not get them something cozy, like one of Cozy Earth's premium bathrobes? I know what you're thinking. Bathrobes and candles are like standard fare for us mom types. But let me tell you about this robe. It rules. Its pockets are big enough for your hands and a phone, and in my case, maybe a small monster truck that I've picked up off the floor right before stepping on it. It's truly a utility robe. They come in a variety of weights and fabrics: plush, quilted, waffle, or stretch knit. I have the luxe robe, and I've washed it a few times already, and it stayed plush. Paired with my Cozy Earth slippers, which are now my go-to house shoes that I pretty much wear all day, every day, I found 2 more Cozy Earth things that I can't stop talking about. Let this Mother's Day be a reminder that moms deserve care too. Discover how Cozy Earth turns everyday routines into moments of softness and ease. Head to CozyEarth.com and use our code CozyDenver for an exclusive 20% off. And if you see a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here on CityCast Denver. Okay, so we're talking now about this open letter that went out to elected officials in Colorado from 230 business leaders. Paul, can you give us the lowdown on what this letter, who it's from, what it was about?
Okay, so this letter, I would say, is the latest and strongest call for attention, for help from a community of people that has been increasingly grumpy and noisy and making trouble in the last few years. The CEO, it's a small but powerful and influential group of Coloradans, and 230 of them have signed this open letter that has basically complaining to our elected officials, our top elected officials, Michael Bennet, candidate for governor Phil Weiser, running against Bennett, of course, in the Democratic primary, Senator John Hickenlooper, Denver Mayor Mike Johnston, and Governor Jared Polis, which is interesting because it's both addressed to him and he chose to sign the letter, which was, I think, the first thing that got my attention, because I was like, if he doesn't think as governor he has the power to change these things, what is really the problem with this, quote, deteriorating foundation for Colorado's technology and business leadership? They're basically saying we're overregulated. This economy is not open for business. And in the past 5 years or 6 years, they have some data from the Colorado Chamber of Commerce that found a lot of businesses were either leaving Colorado or choosing to make investments in other states.
Okay.
So that's what this trend is. And that's why this particular community is upset. And why I wanted to talk to Greg for a little bit of a reality check is how real is this? What does this matter for the rest of us? So Greg, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're at this point in Colorado where we're starting to see a change in Colorado's trend of economic performance, business performance relative to the United States. I've been in the legislative economist position since 2013. I've been the chief economist since 2022. Over the course of that history, the story in most instances was Colorado is a high-performing state relative to the rest of the country. And I think that was especially true coming immediately out of COVID, where we had fewer job losses than many other states, and in particular, really strong rebound in economic activity coming out of the COVID recession relative to the rest of the country. That's changed a little bit. And whether the change is attributable to, well, maybe we just jumped out to this big lead and now other states are catching up, or more of a longer term, Colorado isn't outperforming the rest of the United States, I think remains to be seen. But where a lot of the consternation, especially from the business community, has emerged, I think, over the last 1.5 to 2 years, has been Colorado's economy is not growing as quickly as the nation as a whole, as other competitor states. And that's motivating this outmigration of individuals and businesses. I have more thoughts about exactly what's happening there. But I think, as Paul alluded to, in all instances, it's going to be advantageous for the business community, quote unquote, to author a letter to policymakers indicating that they're in distress and need additional policy support. And so I think it's correct to read this as a political document that's attempting to motivate, particular actions on the part of the state or a particular set of actions on the part of the legislature and the executive branch that maybe deviates from what's been happening among policymakers for the past few years.
Greg, is it as dire? I mean, it feels dire in the letter. Is it that? I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking the thing that really struck me about what you just said was like how we were doing coming out of COVID. Is it as dire as they're sort of making it out to be?
Well, so let's talk about a few different pieces of the puzzle. I think one is, macroeconomic performance for Colorado. So how the whole state economy is performing. And I think there we are seeing a real change in trend for Colorado compared to the United States. So we have, I actually talked about this with you the last time I was on CityCast as well. We have some concerns about data quality issues when it comes to the labor market. Those are resolving, but there are some concerns about how different state changes in the way that we collect those data happened, and then the federal government shutdown changing the way that those data were collected and reported in 2025. But the best information we have now shows that Colorado lost jobs in 2025. That's weird. We don't tend to lose jobs in an economic expansion. And I think that that's what happened in 2025. I don't think the economy is actively receding. So that's a big change. I think what's happened there is a few different things. One, we have big federal government job losses associated with DOGE and reductions in the federal workforce. Obviously, Colorado, a very high federal workforce concentration state. Two is a lot of distress in the tech industry. We are a tech-oriented economy in many ways. And then three is sort of overall macroeconomic malaise nationwide that's resulting in things like less tourist activity in Colorado. We had a horrible water year, and most of that is going to affect, economic indicators for 2026 rather than 2025. But even at the start of the ski season, it was really clear to resorts that was a likely outcome, and I think motivated less hiring, less investment in those communities. And also just less economic activity nationally means people have less money to come travel to Colorado on vacation. That's also true for international visitors because of changes in how easy it is to get a visa to visit the United States, or people choosing not to come here because they'd rather, go to Canada or another competitor nation for international visits. So I think all of those are contributing factors to the level of job losses last year, but it's not a national trend, right? Like this is Colorado performing less well than the United States as a whole, which is noteworthy because, again, that tends not to happen.
Yeah, that's the troubling part. That's the part that says, like, what decisions are Coloradans making that other people aren't making that are maybe leading us down the wrong path?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's some chance that this is a blip, right? There's some chance that coming out of COVID, we have this really strong level of economic activity. We're now even, if you look at the period since COVID, job gains in Colorado have been stronger than most states around the US, even accounting for these job losses that we have in our data set for 2025. And so, in the post-COVID expansion, we're still a relatively well-performing state. It's just of late, things have not been performing as well. I think for businesses, the two issues that are most frequently cited are the regulatory environment and affordability. And remember, affordability for business isn't just how much does groceries costs, right? It's also how much does labor cost. And Colorado workers make more money than their counterparts in adjacent states that businesses may see as competitors for our business environment. So when businesses say Colorado is unaffordable, that means that it's more expensive to invest here as a business. But from a perspective of someone who's not a business owner and is working those jobs, it's also indicative of a better earnings environment here than you might have elsewhere. A lot of labor advocates would point to the regulatory deficiencies that businesses see and say, well, that's workers' rights being protected for those employees. And so it can be the case that you make strides with respect to protecting labor rights, protecting the environment, and those same strides cause businesses to choose to invest money elsewhere where they don't have to comply with those same labor requirements and those same environmental requirements. And I think that those two things can be true at the same time. that's part of this sort of Colorado has this over-regulatory environment thing that keeps coming out from the business community. I'd also note there, talking with business owners, I'll frequently say, well, Colorado has a relatively low corporate income tax rate. It has a relatively low individual income tax rate. It has relatively low property taxes relative to most other competitor states. The way that they tend to respond to those kinds of assertions is, sure, but not the lowest. And so there are still opportunities to move to a state with even lower taxes, like Texas or Florida, which are the states that are attracting businesses away from Colorado in some cases. And two, that there's a perspective among business that the governor, the legislature are acting against their interests in many cases, where they're taking actions that are more responsive to the needs of labor, to the needs of environmental groups, than they are to attracting new business. And, sitting as a legislative economist, I'm not going to opine on whether those decisions are correct, but I think that is a fair representation of what's happened over the past few years in terms of policymaking here at the Capitol.
One of those issues where they seem to be really focusing on in terms of when they complain about overregulation is this AI law that Colorado, the Democrats in Colorado whenever they talk about it, they say, first in the nation, nation leading regulations. But then when the business owners talk about it, they say, this is forcing us out. This is why Palantir says that they left in part because of this law. And I just want to read a quote here from this letter on the subject and get your take on this, Greg, because I thought this was interesting. They wrote, this is again, the 230 CEOs wrote, artificial intelligence is reshaping humanity, transforming how people work, live, learn, and relate to one another while altering opportunity structures and redefining entire industries. It is accelerating both creation and disruption at a pace and scale unmatched in history. In moments like this, the regions with strong, stable, and well-led innovation ecosystems pull decisively ahead. Regions that hesitate, fragment, or send conflicting signals do not simply slow, they lose ground in ways that compound over time. What do you make of that, Greg? Can you explain what they're saying here?
I'd say Colorado has made a decision to impose regulations on how AI can be used and how its uses must be indicated to consumers. And those regulations do not exist in most other states because Colorado led and took action in advance of other states choosing to act in this space. If you're an AI using business, that means that it's easier for you to operate in another state that doesn't have those regulations because these are potentially transformative in terms of the work that you're doing. But ease of business operation, I don't think is the primary objective of this law. It's consumer protection. It's ensuring that the transformational impacts of artificial intelligence that Paul just told us about are reined in terms of their ability to have detrimental transformative impacts on the life of someone who's seeking a job or seeking a place to live. And so again, my job professionally is not to opine on the merits of that decision, but these things aren't, business detrimental with no positive effects elsewhere. They're balancing the interests of businesses who'd like to, in many cases, go forward and use new technology without especially intervention from state and local governments when they view this as a national issue versus state and local policymakers who are responsive to their constituents who feel that there are big transformative impacts of AI that haven't been addressed in any federal regulations, nor have they, beyond this law, been addressed in state policymaking. And so that's a reason why you'd want to intervene here.
I mean, I just feel from the consumer standpoint and just from like a person working in Colorado standpoint, there's so much that feels unknown about AI's impacts on so many different industries that I see it in our own industry in journalism. I mean, we just watched the Associated Press lay off a ton of reporters and implement more uses for AI. And so I see the trepidation on the consumer side of it. And it does feel a little frustrating that businesses I don't know. I don't want to say they don't want to be regulated in this space, but it does sound like if they don't want to be regulated in this space, they just go somewhere else. And I don't know. I mean, I just think there's so much unknown, I guess is what I would say with AI. There's so much unknown that, and a lot of it is instilling fear in folks. Myself personally, like, I don't know what that means for our job market. Like,
well, tell us, Greg, because you all addressed this in your latest forecast for the Colorado economy. You talked about how the impact that you see from AI on the Colorado economy. It seems like our politicians are focused on this regulation. The business owners are complaining about it, but what do the numbers say?
Sure, absolutely. So I think at this point, we've been watching for AI impacts in a few different areas. One is, the amount of hiring that's going on in business, and one is the amount of productivity that's happening in the economy. And so nationwide, I mentioned that in Colorado, we saw, I'll put on the record, a 0.4% loss of jobs in 2025 relative to 2024, according to the best data that we have. At the national level, we don't see losses, but we see extremely slow gains in employment that are indicative of an economy that's not hiring, really, and where you've seen in many sectors, especially tech, significant layoffs of personnel. That's indicative, I think, in part of AI transforming business needs for labor. And that's likely to continue in the sense of either businesses feel that they need fewer workers than they did previously, or they're taking a wait and see approach of let's not fill new vacancies when someone retires, when someone leaves for another position, and see if we can rely on efficiencies that are garnered through AI to make up those losses. So a few sectors where that might be happening: Colorado lost 4,400 jobs in administrative and support services last year. That's 3% of that workforce. So that's a significant change in the level of employment in that industry. And those are the types of jobs that I think may be more able to be replaced by AI use cases than in some other sectors. We also saw job losses in federal government, like I said, in retail, like I said, that I don't think are as representative of AI changes. So there are multiple things going on at the same time in the labor market. Now, economists might say, well, if the economy is producing more output, which we saw GDP, the total value of goods and services produced nationwide, grow faster nationwide last year than I expected and than most other economists expected, isn't that a good thing? Doesn't that mean that the economy is becoming more productive if it's producing even more stuff than we thought with even less labor input than we thought? And I think in general, in a world where it's like the economy can produce more stuff and require less work to do so, that's a good thing, except that we've designed an economy where someone needs to have a job in order to benefit from those economic gains writ large. This is going to be an issue that will dominate the next 20, 30 years of economics in the United States. Is, let's say, technological advancement allows for a better, more productive economy. What does that mean in terms of income inequality, wealth inequality, distribution of that economic output across households when we're still operating in this very 20th century mode of your income is directly tied to your individual working hours. And as long as you aren't working 40 plus hours a week, you're taking a hit in terms of your quote unquote earning potential because you are not contributing as much with your labor. I think that's a hard question for policymakers. It's kind of an issue that our system isn't really well equipped to address or resolve. Most policymakers view this as, how do we ensure that people in my district have jobs? I think that that's one way to look at it. But ultimately, I think the question is, how do we ensure that people in my district are prospering and benefiting from the economy through work or through some other allocation of resources? That's tough, right? Like, that's really hard to implement. It requires a level of political nimbleness that we've not exhibited at the federal or state level. And I'm curious to see how things go.
This is like exactly what I'm thinking about, is like, ooh, with AI or, whatever the technological advances are that make it, we need less people to do this job. Well, then who's going to spend money in that economy if nobody has any money? And the cost of goods at this point is, I went to the grocery store yesterday, $377 for 3 people. And like,
ridiculous.
It's understandably, I was buying
A lot of
groceries because
money.
I hadn't really like been grocery. I'd done a couple trips here and there, but I hadn't done my like big shop for a month. But still, some stuff was just like so expensive. And I'm starting to think about like, well, there's this sort of tenor of like, are things changing? Are we going to lose our jobs? I better stop spending money right now while I do have it. Like, I wonder how much of that is already happening for people, even if they haven't been impacted by AI or losing their job yet.
So one thing that I'd point to there, I mentioned before, I'm sure that what happened in 2025 is the state economy lost jobs despite an economic expansion. And I think that's what's happening overall. The data that I trust the most are actually the dollars that the state government is getting in every month from individual income tax withholding. So people who work, paid jobs have money withheld from their paychecks to pay their income taxes. We get those data. Those are high frequency and they're highly accurate because they're representing actual paycheck withholdings. And then sales tax collections, where retailers that are making sales are reporting their taxable sales and their monthly sales tax remittances every month. Sales tax collections in the first 9 months of this fiscal year, I know that's very relatable for your audience, but the last 9 months essentially are up 2.8%, which sounds okay, except that that's like barely treading water vis-a-vis inflation. So essentially, we're not consuming more in terms of retail products than we were last year. We're consuming about the same level with costs being higher than they were last year. And I think that's indicative of household budgets that are really strained. That's true nationally. One thing that my team has tracked really closely is the level of delinquent loans. And so we look at the percentage of loans that are past due by 30 days or more, past due by 90 days or more. And what we've seen, and I think alarmingly, over the past year and a half, is a real increase in delinquent credit cards, where we now have credit card delinquencies that are right about where they were just approaching the Great Recession. And it's by far the highest that they've been since the Great Recession. That's really concerning because that means higher costs in the economy aren't being borne in all cases by higher incomes. They're being borne by people taking on debt and using that debt to finance those purchases.
Yeah. So is that an indicator?
That's, I think, more true in Colorado than elsewhere.
Yeah. Huh.
And so that's concerning. And I think it's exactly what you're talking about, Bree, which is it may be the case that GDP is up or whatever, but that's not necessarily impactful for an individual household if your income isn't rising as quickly as your costs are, and if you're having to rely more and more on debt. That's not going to show up in the top line economic statistics as much. We learned this in COVID. We learned that because of income disparities in the United States and the level that different people are earning and consuming at, it's possible for the economy to be in really poor shape for a significant portion of population at lower income levels without it showing up as like a huge hit to GDP or a huge hit to state revenue collections, because those folks are earning and consuming so much less than the people at the top end of the income distribution.
Well, Greg Sobetsky, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here. Happy to come on whenever you'd like to have me.
Thank you so much, Greg. Okay, before we go, one more time. It is our membership drive. We need you. We really need you. This is so important. Keep this show going. Keep our events going. Keep this community that you've helped us create going. Membership.citycast.fm. Join today. $10 a month, $100 a year. You get a cool Oxford pennant that honestly, not a lot of people in the city are going to have. Just CityCast Denver neighbors who join this week. Paul, anything else you want to add about just this, how the importance of this drive? Because
this pennant, I can't wait to put it on my wall. Also, I can't wait till in 5 years I can have it on my wall and someone sees it in the back of my Zoom background. They're like, "Whoa, what's that about?" And I'll
or
be like,
they have one
"Let me
too.
tell you." Oh,
maybe it's someone who joins.
Maybe. Well, membership.citycast.fm is the way to do it. And thank you all so much for all your support. Everyone that's joined so far in the drive, it's been incredible. I mean, thank you so much.
Yes.
And if you want to join the CityCast Denver neighbor community for exclusive events, members only emails, bonus segments every week, membership.citycast.fm.
Do it now.
See you next time.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell a Colorado CEO about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe to our morning newsletter at denver.citycast.fm. And hey, thanks to our new neighbors, Juliana H.G., Elizabeth M., David S.M., Janelle B., John R., Alex G., Christopher S., Salil P., Katie T., Victoria B., and Ruth M., who just joined our membership program. You can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Denver neighbor today at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye-bye.